All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been creating a series of video presentations based off of the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. I'm in the CSS module, and I'm towards the end. I'm going over CSS layout, and this is part 3 of this particular module. Or a particular unit talking about positioning, and we went through the simple positioning example where we just have 3 paragraphs. We've done a little bit with background color, etc., and it looks like this. And just to show you or prove that to you, here's mine. So again, it does look virtually the same as what they show here. So first thing they're going to do is talk about relative positioning. So notice relative positioning allows you to offset an item in the normal flow, or from the position it would normally have by default. This means you could achieve a task such as moving an icon down a bit so it lines up with a text label. So let's do this. So what have we done? We're finding something with a class of positioned. We're giving it a relative position, 30 pixels down from the top and 30 pixels over. All right, well, there's the class equal positioned. And as always, it'll be quite simple to go take a look in here and see what, if anything, we have changed. All right, so with that in place, there we did. We just moved this. So what did we do? We moved it 30 pixels over and 30 pixels down. Okay. So it says we give our middle paragraph a position of relative. This doesn't do anything on its own, but we added the top and left. This says to move the element down and to the right. It says it might seem like the opposite of what you expect, but you need to think of the element as being pushed from its left to its right and from its top to its bottom. So it says adding this code will give the following result, and it's this one. And what they've done here is for the position, they're changing the color for lack of better words. So let's put all that in. This is what we had in positioned, relative top and left. We're keeping the relative, the top and the left, but we're adding a background color and a border, I guess just for effect there. So that's what we're supposed to have, and what we actually did have was pretty much the same thing. All right, so that was relative positioning. Next we have absolute positioning. So notice what we're doing in here. We're changing position relative to position absolute. All right, we're going to have the same top and the same left. So this is what we're going to have. So I'm going to grab that. And really, I think, maybe I'm wrong here, but let's look. I'm going to change that to absolute. Same RGBA, same pixel, top and left. So the only thing we've done is we have changed the positioning from relative, which again was relative to where it was currently placed, to an absolute type of position. All right, so you saw where it was, and now that's where it is. Now it literally is positioned 30 pixels over, 30 pixels down. All right. So as mentioned there, this is very different. The positioned element now has completely separated from the rest of the page. As they put it earlier, it's kind of in its own layer. The top and left properties have a different effect on absolutely positioned elements than on relative. In this case, it's been calculated from 0.00, which is, again, the origin, which is right there. All right. Fixed positioning removes the element from the document flow in the same way as absolute positioning. However, it says instead of the offsets being applied from the container, they are applied from the viewport. So the item remains fixed in relation to the viewport. It says we can create effects such as a menu which remains fixed as the page scrolls beneath it. So we're supposed to come in here. It says for this example, our HTML is 3 paragraphs of text. All right. So we can cause the page to scroll and a box which it will have a position of fixed. All right. So you can see what's different here. Different heading. But we've got a div that is set up to positioned, and this position now, whoops. We're still going to have top and bottom. They're removing the color. I don't think it'll hurt anything to leave it, but I'm going to change this to fixed. All right. And you'll notice how the size changed. It is not only fixed where it is, but it is literally, all right, the size of the div has been changed. To what? To something that's big enough to accommodate the word fixed. So I believe that if we came back in here and changed this to this is in fixed position, and we went back to where we were, all right, so you can see that it's being resized. It's still 30, but it's being resized in a fixed position starting there relative to what we put in it. All right. And next we have sticky positioning. As they say, it's a mix of the default static positioning and fixed positioning. When an item has position sticky, it will scroll in the normal flow until it hits offsets which we've defined. All right, so what we have in here now is position sticky. And notice what happens. See that? Once it hits a certain level, now it's not going to move anymore. Quite often this is used for things like sticky headers, sticky menus, sticky footers, etc. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to that. And I don't think it's going to look very different, and we don't have enough text in here to really go do a bunch of scrolling either. All right, so it doesn't look, it did move it, but the point is, if we put a bunch of other code down here, this should remain fixed in its position. Let's find out. So I'm going to put in here, let's just copy this. So I put in a bunch of paragraphs. Refresh. There they are. But notice how once that reaches a certain position, it does not move anymore. All right? It's the easiest way to show you. In fact, if we were to have gone back to the fixed that we looked at before, let's just do that just so you can see it, because this was sticky. But let's change that back to fixed. And let's put that back to just the word fixed. And you see where it is, and you see that it's not moving. All right, hopefully that gave you a little bit of an introduction to this stuff. All right. All right. Tables, as I've mentioned, it's not so much that tables have fell out of favor, but tables really should be being used only for tabular data. That said, if you've got a reason to use a table, you should use a table. That said, you want to make sure your tables are formatted so they've got a nice look and feel to them. So here we've got a form. It says first, let's see, the way a table looks on a web page when you use table markup is due to a set of CSS properties that define table layout. These properties can be used to lay out elements that use sometimes described as CSS tables. The example below shows one such use. Using tables for layout should be considered a legacy method at this point. In other words, they're out there, but you shouldn't be doing any new development like this. Says first, some simple markup that creates a form. Each input element has a label, so we've included a caption inside of a paragraph. Each label is wrapped inside of a div for layout purposes. Okay, so let's grab this. Let's put that into here. All right, so we've got that. I don't think we're going to need any of this. So let's just see by default what this looks like. This is our first foray, so to speak, into even looking at forms. So there it is. Not very nicely formatted. All right. Working, I would think that you can put stuff in here. All right. But not very nice as far as the way that it looks. All right. It says now the CSS for our example. Most of the CSS is fairly ordinary, except for the uses of the display property. The form, divs, labels, and inputs have all been told to display like a table. All right, like table rows, table cells, etc. Basically, they act like table markup. So it says you'll notice that the caption has been given a display table caption, which makes it act like a table's caption. So let's grab every bit that we've got in here and bring it in here, bring it there. And as always, let's just move this over so if we wanted to look at it, we could look at it. Bring it over a little further. That looks better. So when we look at this, hopefully you get a little gander of why you might want to do something like this. That looks pretty nice. All right. And that was done basically using table type of options. All right. Okay. Multi-column layout, which I believe is about the last thing we've got in here. Yes, it is. Which is good because we're starting to get close here. The multi-column layout module gives us a way to lay out contents similar to the flow in a newspaper. While reading up and down columns is less useful in a web context, there might be a reason that you want to do that. So what are we doing here? All right. It says to turn a block into a multi-column container, we'll use the column count property. All right, use either column count, which tells the browser how many columns you'd like it to have, or column width, which tells it how wide you want to make it. So let's grab this. As always, we'll look at it first. Let's totally remove all of the HTML that we have in here. Let's remove everything that we've got in the body. And let's add this. Not much when you look at it here. So we've got a div, and that div inside of it has an H1, and it has 2 paragraphs. So with normal flow layout, or whatever you want to call it, it's going to look like this. No CSS, just like that. Not much to it. All right. But when we go in and we add to that, this, now notice we want the width of each column to be 200 pixels. All right. Now, it's going to look a little different from what we have right here just because of the fact we don't have all of that text in there. But let's just take a look at it anyway. And then we can go back if we want to and make changes. All right. How is this going to change it? My guess is not a whole boatload of a lot. I guess it did. In fact, let's go and even do this. All right. Let's go see if we can grab the text that they've got in here. All right, it says multi-column layout, etc. Let's just grab every bit of, we'll take it from up here. There. All right. And we'll come down to here, and in these paragraphs, we'll just put in this. All right, so we'll put these in as paragraphs. Oops, not like that. Oops. So you can see we're getting this, since we're putting a lot of text in here, it's going to look a lot different in just a couple minutes. All right, then we'll end our paragraph, put in our second paragraph, let's take all of this and move it over one. And this and move it there and there. You get the idea. All right, and our ending paragraph. Tag, save that, go back to here and refresh. Now it looks much more similar to what they've shown in the book. But again, each one of these is 200 wide. You'll notice that probably, for example, if I change that from 200 to 300, we'd probably have 3 columns. Not sure what that might do to our heading here, but okay, there you go. And again, if we made it, for example, 450, my guess is we would have just 2 columns. All right, and you get the idea as we're going through this. So this is one way, as mentioned there, that you can do this. The other way is by using what's called column count. Okay? And let's see, container. What if we did that? So let's go in there, and I guess that they want us to, in here, because that's it for this particular module. But let's just quickly go in there and change this to column count. So column count, we'll make it, I think it was 3 originally, but I'm not sure. And it looks like it didn't do anything. Container. Probably helped to spell column correctly. And there you see it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this lesson. We covered quite a bit in here. All right, but we went in, and this was right here. It ended up being 3 parts to our introduction to CSS layout. So next, we're going to jump into normal flow, and I'll be back with that in just a couple moments.